time to wake up. It's time to wake up. It's time to wake up. It's time to wake up.
Yeah, hello everybody. When we think about AI in the workplace, we often think of efficiencies, of cost savings, but we also need to consider its ecological and social impacts. AI can offer both green solutions and foster inclusivity, or it can harm the environment and society. How do we choose the right path? That's what we are going to discuss within the next 30 minutes. And yeah, since I'm not sure everyone in the audience knows what each of you do, let's start with a brief introduction. And yeah, let's have a look how your companies connect with sustainability. Bernard, at Dorje, you develop software for enterprise resource planning, yeah? And how does this relate to climate issues?
Well, hi everybody, my name is Bernard. I'm the co-founder CEO of Dorje AI. How does it work is that I think in Asia Pacific, where I come from, a lot of the manufacturing and a lot of the supply chain is actually dealing with Scope 3 emissions. So whatever I'm doing in the enterprise resource planning space is specifically trying to get a much more transparent supply chain and to know how we're going to cope with the Scope 3 emissions in terms of the ESG reporting on that.
Yeah, and you're also active in the venture capital space.
Yes, I did. I'm actually currently an advisor to a global VC firm called Undivided Ventures. They are based in Hong Kong. They invest globally in sustainability and construction tech. What I didn't talk about in my background, I was formerly a CIO in a construction company, focuses a conglomerate that actually where most part of the task is actually looking for technologies that deal with the construction tech space. And that was how I ended up working as an advisor for them. Yeah.
Yeah. Adam, Google is well known for its search engine and for its cloud solutions, but what does a sustainability manager do at Google? What's your job?
Thanks, and good afternoon, everyone. So Adam Elman, I'm part of our sustainability team, and I lead our work across Europe, Middle East, and Africa. So, sustainability has always been core to Google, but climate change is not a distant threat. I think everyone in this room knows that. So the question of how we build technology and use technology to help in the fight against climate crisis has only become more urgent. And we think we can help lead the transition by making quality information available. And we do that through our products and platforms that billions of people come to every day, whether that's YouTube, whether that's search, whether that's Google Maps. So we can really empower them with the information, and whether that's individuals, organizations, or governments, so they can make decisions that are better for our planet. And with our deep legacy in research and the breakthroughs we're making in artificial intelligence, we're finding new ways to make that information available and make it useful so that we can really advance action on climate change and really drive innovation to really tackle this key issue.
Mm-hmm. Now we are in times of polycrisis with all those geopolitical conflicts. So how do you make sure that you really keep focusing on sustainability?
No, absolutely. I mean, for us as a business, we have a very robust and very public strategy for our work on sustainability. And our work really spans two core areas. Firstly, our own business. So we need to make sure we're operating our business sustainably. It's something we've done for a long, long time, making sure we're sourcing clean energy. We already match our electricity use with 100% renewable energy and have done so every year for the last 7 years. But we're also focused on making sure our business is as efficient as possible. So a Google data center is typically 1.5 times more efficient than an enterprise data center. And we're really focused, as I say, on driving efficiency and clean energy within our own business. So that's one thing we focus on. Mm-hmm. But we also focus on building these solutions so we can help individuals and help organizations. So maybe just to give you one example, Google Maps. We use AI to help drivers get around more efficiently. So we surface up the most fuel-efficient route if it's not already the most efficient route. Mm-hmm. And since launching that 2 years ago, that's already helped to avoid 2.4 million metric tons of CO2. That's the same as taking 500,000 fuel-based cars off the road every single year. So, it's very much part of our mission. We have very clear public goals. And, we really see value in this, both for our own business and for others.
Okay, that helps a lot. Mashrur, iPAGE is a tech company specializing in agriculture. What exactly do you do, and where do you have the biggest impact economically or yeah, ecologically.
So hi everyone, thank you very much. I'm Mashrur H. I'm the co-founder of iPAGE Bangladesh, and we work with the smallholder farmer, helping them to understand the language of soil, weather, and the demand of the customer. Now we directly work in the agricultural extension, where we help the farmer to understand what type of crops are suitable for the land, what should be the best and optimum fertilizer application they should be going for. And of course, they also need to understand what is the demand specification coming from the consumer side. Now, in our case, what happens, our small farmers, they do have data, but they do not have the capacity of analyze the data. So that is where we see the value of getting analytics and AI to help them understand the meaning of the data, because data can talk only when we know how to listen to it, right? So we are in the business of helping the farmer into listening to the data. And that connects the farmer with the consumer even better. Because when the farmers are producing at their own will, they do not understand the specification of the producer, and they will be producing at mass level without having fair market price. But if they can produce understanding the market data, understanding the consumer data, and the specification, that is the moment we can connect them with the buyer, with the consumer more effectively. And that is where we see the sustainability, helping the farmer to generate or to produce what they should be producing, understanding the soil, weather, and the market.
How do they gather their data so far? Can you specify?
So oftentimes we mistake saying that the farmers do not understand data or they do not have data. They have data. If you ask a small farmer in Bangladesh or India, they would be able to give you the data of their farming practice for the last 3 to 5 seasons. The problem is those data are not actionable data. So the access for them to that kind of data, these are historical data, they have it, they memorize it and then they deliver it when you're asking it. But when you want to help them understand the data of soil, they need to go to the government infrastructure or private sectors like us, and that is where we come in, bringing the private investment and technology to help them to get the data effectively.
Adam, today there's a major story in Handelsblatt about the high electricity demand of new AI applications like Gemini, for example, from Google. With some fearing it could even lead to blackouts. Does AI pose a serious threat to our climate? And if so, shouldn't you, as a sustainability manager, consider quitting?
Look, this is something that we take very seriously, and it's something, as I say, as a business we've focused on for a long time. When it comes to energy use and AI, we're really at an inflection point. So actually predicting what the growth of energy use is going to be is very difficult. But actually, if you look historically, hyperscalers, ourselves and others included, have been really good at driving efficiency. And I've mentioned some of that work we've already, and the work that we do on clean energy. And so, that's something we really focus on, and we've been very good at it. When it comes to AI in particular, we have tried and tested practices that have helped us reduce machine learning, energy use by 100 times and emissions by 1,000 times. And we're also bringing onto the market new technology. Actually, at Google I/O, just yesterday, we launched our new TPU, Tensor Processing Unit, which is, again, driving even more energy efficiency. So yes, it's something we continue to focus on. We have big ambitious goals. So we're aiming to be net zero by 2030. So we need to manage our ambitions. I also spoke about our work on clean energy, but we're going further. So we don't just want to get to the end of the year and say, how much electricity do we use? Have we bought enough renewable electricity? We're aiming for something called 24/7 carbon-free energy. That means sourcing clean energy locally every hour of every single day. And we're already 2/3 of the way there, and we aim to get to 100% by 2030. The final thing I'll say is, the opportunity for AI is really significant in terms of helping in terms of the climate crisis. We worked with Boston Consulting Group last year to produce a report which identified that existing AI technology that's available today has the opportunity to reduce greenhouse gas emissions by up to 10% by 2030. So there's a huge opportunity, including with the clean energy transition, and we're helping grid operators and renewable energy companies around the world with AI to deploy new clean energy to the grid.
Yeah, Bernard, maybe you can jump in. So it seems like a good idea for companies to ensure their own carbon footprint is neutral. But if we face overall electricity shortages for the economy, for the society, is this approach really sustainable? What do you think?
I think the hyperscalers, like for example, whether it's Google, whether it's AWS, or even the others, I think they actually have a very, they have taken a lot of initiatives in terms of trying to ensure the sustainable initiatives, like for example, energy consumption on the use. I think if I were to reframe this, what about small businesses and how do they think of the use? I think where most of the businesses are now in thinking of using AI, whether it's in the emerging or in the developed markets, is that I think it's still at a very early stage. And most part of it is actually trying to find where the data is and how to use that data to generate insights for their own businesses, or even use to automate away some of the work that they used to do and trying to improve productivity as such on there.
Adam, in the AI race, you're driven also by competitors like Microsoft, OpenAI, and so on. First and foremost, you have to look on, or to convince the market, with a technical project or product. Is it really realistic to prioritize sustainability at the same time? Isn't it that you have to look at technology first?
I think they go very much hand in hand. And, we, as I say, we have solutions which we provide to billions of people around the world. We have organizations, so companies, big and small, governments and cities, who come to talk to us every day to say that they have these ambitious goals and they recognize that technology can be an opportunity to help them. And so actually, I think, organizations and governments really recognize this twin transition, this opportunity to be more efficient, to open up new markets, and for sustainability to be a key part of that. Cities are a great example. So cities have multiple challenges. Cities also account for around 70% of global greenhouse gas emissions. They often lack that data, that understanding to know where to focus their investment, what policies to put in place. So for example, we have a solution called Environmental Insights Explorer. We provide it free to cities. It gives them data that they don't have on emissions associated with transportation, emissions associated with buildings. What's the opportunity to deploy additional tree coverage to help with urban heat islands or to deploy solar panels? And again, once we give them this data, this really helps them unlock. So I think we see these very much going hand in hand, and that's what we hear from organizations and businesses every single day.
Yeah. Bernard, Adam mentioned the cities. Companies also can become more sustainable with available data on social, ecological impacts or effects. Where do companies stand today and what's still missing in that journey?
So actually, before I came in today, there was a very interesting report for McKinsey that's talking about AI for the social good. And I thought I brought it up because I brought up one interesting data point that I just make sure I have it here as such. So they actually did a survey for all the small, medium businesses and even business leaders, and they found that actually the biggest challenge is data challenges. And 73% of the respondents globally, data availability, accessibility, and also quality, because it's actually one of the major impediments for businesses adopting AI. So that's actually where the key is. And the other thing is, most businesses typically deploy about one use case or so, but actually there's more than like 100 over use cases that they can actually deploy in their business. So we can see that even for businesses trying to adopt AI, the challenges of data is one of the major piece that we need to solve on that.
Mashrur, what type of data has the greatest impact from your point of view?
So, from our point of view in dealing with farmers, I believe the data of how much they're producing, what inputs they're using, and how much they're selling it for. These are the data with deep lying impact we should be looking into. For example, when a farmer decides about the input application, in developing countries, the small farmers will be applying more chemical fertilizers, for example, urea, to expecting higher yield, but that doesn't happen. And when they apply, without understanding that high volume of chemical fertilizer, that deploys massive volume of greenhouse gas to the environment. Now, if you want to work around the climate risk mitigation, we have to understand where are the massive portion of the greenhouse gas emissions are happening. In fact, I was looking into another research data that says by this time, 30% of the human-generated carbon emissions are coming from the farmer's field. And then again, zero point 0.5 to 1.2 gigatons of carbon dioxide can be sequestered through the farmer field. Now, if we want to impact in that region, we have to understand what the farmers are doing actually, how we can help them in optimizing that, and of course, why they're doing it for the consumers.
Yeah.
I believe from an impact perspective, these are the data we need to focus more.
Yeah. So the title of our session is AI for the common good. Does climate and the common good really concern your small-scale farmers, or does climate become only relevant when the economic consequences become visible?
So farmers, how do I put it? So smallholder farmers are not just the victim of climate crisis. They're also an active contributor of climate crisis. Now, if you want to help them in not standing in the forefront of climate battle, we have to equip them with the right data and decision-making capacity so that they can make the optimal decision. And that is not easy because farmer will not be paying for the data that you want to supply them. So finding willingness to pay, a business model to willingness to pay for that kind of data delivery is a challenge. That is what private sector should be working more.
But is it more about real-time data like the weather forecast and, I don't know, soil drying rates, or is it more about, or also about long-term data, such as the long-term fertility impact of using certain fertilizers?
Both, because it's not only about the real-time data that will be collected from the soil or weather, but also the historical data that they have been working on for so long on the same land, and what they will be going to be contributing in the long term. So it has to be a match between the historical data, the real-time collected data, and the projected data.
Let's zoom out a little bit. So, coming from Bangladesh, what role does AI have to play in the developing world? How do you see it?
So, 50% of our active workforce are involved in agriculture. And we have 16 million farmers. Now, just imagine how challenging it is for us to help and push this farmer to continue producing for the food security of the nation without guiding them towards not generating a massive amount of carbon to the environment. So in that kind of perspective, I believe AI can play a crucial role in bridging the gap between the farmer, the producer, or the producer and the ecosystem actors. For example, in our case, we are helping the banks to analyze the farmer productivity data to generate the income statement and balance sheet for the farmer, and that's why the banks are investing in the farmer. So this is one example how AI can amplify the decision-making capacity and engage the farmer with the ecosystem actor and go for optimal production as well as profitability.
And for the country as a whole, do you see more opportunities to leapfrog, or do you see more risks of falling behind?
There are always risks, so we have to accommodate, but there are opportunities. So I would say, like, when I talk about farmer and land, so land is not just a matter of productivity, land is also land of opportunity. So just see the carbon credit programs all over the world opening a new dimension of opportunity. So I would say that there are opportunities. We have to identify that. We have to get young people engaging with that kind of opportunity, and then support from the policy people in power who can develop policy for that.
And how do you see the availability of AI-enabled devices? Is that the bottleneck? Is that the problem?
So
AI-enabled smartphones, laptops, does everyone have one?
So AI can actually play the role of delivering the benefit. But if it is dependent on a particular device, like for the farmers in our country, they have like 80% of the farmers do have access to manual phones, but they don't have access to internet or smartphones. Now, if AI systems are designed only to be delivered through the smart devices, that will be a bottleneck. So we need to engage a human-centric design of the AI interfaces so that human interventions can also be run side by side through the AI models. So that is how we can overcome that kind of bottleneck down the line.
And so we all know that ChatGPT and Gemini are working very good in English and in German too. What about other languages?
So first of all, farmers will not be able to access to ChatGPT. And then they, of course, cannot do in English.
Yeah.
That's why what we do, we train the local community organizations with our technology so that they can translate the language of the AI to the farmer. So that is what I call the human-centric design. The HCD can actually overcome that kind of challenges.
Adam, the history of social networks shows us that large tech companies have focused on quickly rolling out their services worldwide. And one extreme example is Facebook, which expanded in Myanmar with very few staff at the time who spoke the local language, and hate on the platform led to incitement and led to even genocide. So without them probably noticing, what are you doing to prevent such issues in the AI revolution?
Yep, so when it comes to AI, we talk about deploying AI both boldly and responsibly, but we also talk about together. We want everyone to have the opportunity here. And so, for example, we have an AI development center in Ghana because, we see amazing opportunity with local expertise there. So, you talk about making it available around the world. We want to make our solutions available. We want to have it in the right language. So we're both putting the infrastructure there, but we're also, through different parts of Google, trying to enable this. So that covers very different aspects. For example, through google.org, which is our philanthropic arm, we're providing funding to not-for-profits so that they can help leverage, develop, and deploy AI technology. We are providing open, free AI training around the world. We've just translated that to 18 different languages because, again, we want to make that available around the world. But equally so, these solutions should be available around the world. We've spoken a lot, and we touched a bit on sort of climate adaptation, but we touched quite a bit on sort of climate mitigation. There's a huge opportunity for AI to help in the adaptation space, which actually is important in the developing world, and increasingly around the world. And one example is our work on flood forecasting. And some of this really started in some of our work in Africa and Asia. And the technology's got so good now, we can predict riverine flooding using AI up to 7 days in advance. And because the technology's got so good, we've been able to deploy that to 80 countries around the world, including in developing countries where there just hasn't been the data set to be able to do this in the past. So I think it's a case, as I say, of really making sure we've got the infrastructure, we've got the expertise on the ground, and really finding those opportunities and making it accessible to everyone that can really benefit from this technology. I'm obviously particularly focused in the climate space and the broader sustainable development goals, and we really want to make sure everyone, both in terms of climate mitigation, adaptation, and scientific research, has the opportunity.
In the past 2 years, mainly large corporations have benefited from AI development. Bernard, what gives you hope that with this revolution, small companies also have a chance?
Actually, the AI space is actually at a very early stage. It's not just the bigger companies that have the advantages. So let me give you 3 points on that. One of the things I've actually been seeing in Asia Pacific, because there's a lot of layoffs that's going on, I see a lot of small business owners have actually started using, whether it's ChatGPT, Gemini, or even cloud, to actually try to change their business processes. And some of the business owners are able to create what is called a custom GPT, like an AI assistant to help them in doing HR tasks. Anything that used to be very manual, the improvement of productivity is somewhere around 30 to 40%. So that's one piece. The second is also the emergence of open source models. I guess not just with respect to, say, Google, Meta's Llama, there's Mistral in Europe from France.
Paris.
Then there is Paris, yep. And then there is also O1.ai in China, done by the famous Li Kai-fu. And then in Southeast Asia, Singapore government funded a large language model called Sea Lion. That's actually using, where the comparison is that OpenAI only has 2% of training data in Southeast Asia. But Sea Lion is taking 13% and taking into account local languages, the languages that we don't read a lot, like the Thai, the Vietnamese, Tagalog, and Indonesia, Bahasa, the different variations of that. So if you think about that, all these small businesses can actually leverage the AI through the open source models as well. And also I think the last piece would be a lot of businesses are trying to figure out how to use AI to make a big change in how they can do things differently. I think this is a very, very interesting space, and I think we're still in the very early days as such.
And how do you see the opportunities of startups in this space?
Now, that's a very interesting question, and I will put it this way. I think if we talk about the foundation models, there is very difficult to compete, and there are very few companies on that. That's the large language models, the OpenAI, the Mistral, the Anthropic, even Google, the big companies are there. Where it's becoming more and more interesting is what I call the applications layer. So for example, we talk about concrete, right? So one big opportunity, concrete is one of the largest contributor in construction for climate carbon emissions. One big problem which I am trying to look for startups and whoever's working on this is using what Google DeepMind has done for protein folding to look for materials, carbon capturing materials, whether the Japanese have done it for steel, but they haven't really done it for concrete. If we can find carbon capturing concrete, that 2-3% can actually be very, very impactful. So there are a lot of these niche areas that I think that if we can put AI into a discovery mode, I think this is where the startups actually have a pretty good foothold in that part of the part of the space. Yeah.
Yeah, I would like to hear a last short statement from each of you. So we have heard a lot of warnings regarding the risks of AI. Some people compared it to the risk of a pandemic, for example. So what gives you hope that we are going to use AI for common good? You know, who likes to start?
I'm happy to start. I'm a huge, look, I chose to come and work at Google because whilst technology is not the only answer to the climate crisis, we've seen time and time again how it can really unlock leaps and bounds and really tackle some of these big challenges. And the breakthroughs we've seen in AI over the last few years are really exciting. And so, you know, at Google, as I mentioned, we're taking a very bold and responsible approach to this. We've been very public about how we're tackling that. But I think what's, you know, and I was talking to a colleague behind stage before is what always worries me when we talk about technology is you can think about this as something that might happen in the future. We have the technology today. The technology is available to large businesses, to small businesses, to startups, to individuals, and it's having a real impact today. The climate crisis is real. It's affecting people around the world, and we have the opportunity to deploy technology today boldly and responsibly that can really unlock and tackle some of these key challenges. So we're really excited, but we are going to need to do it together. It requires working in partnership, it requires working with governments, working with other organizations, working in partnership to make sure it is done boldly and responsibly and have the impact that it should have.
I will just take the optimistic note, but I will take a very contrarian view. I think governments in the world are starting to be more proactive in AI regulation than they are compared to the last few waves of technology. I will just use the EU AI Act recently. I think even for countries in Asia, for example, China, Singapore, Japan, Korea, and even other emerging, they actually started to put in the regulation to try to deal with things like misinformation, deepfake as such. But where I'm more optimistic is how businesses are going to be using AI to leapfrog where they are. And I think it doesn't matter whether you're in, Bangladesh, Africa, all other parts of the world. I think this AI wave is going to change a lot of how we think about work and how we define work. And that's what really keep me every day at work in the area of AI.
Yeah, just to add to that, decades ago, when we talk about AI, we could just picture about the Terminator movie with the Skynet destroying everything. But now if we look into the scenario, you will see that young people are coming forward with the concept and idea in leveraging the power of AI and data analytics for common goods. For example, bringing food security or maybe reducing carbon emissions from the farm fields and other aspects. So I see hope here. And the key point here is to initiate more public-private partnership, as you just said. And also, we need more policy dialogues. And of course, we need to walk the talk because there are a lot of talks are happening around, but very few of them are being actually executed.
Yeah, okay. My main takeaway is that AI for good is a great opportunity, but there's a lot of work to do. And it's not really about the technology being good or bad, it's about people who doing work with that. So thank you very much again for joining us on stage. Thank you, audience, for listening, and enjoy GreenTech Festival.